Welcome, everybody. I am excited to be here to chat with you a little bit here before we all go to the last speaker of the event. Hope everybody's been having a good time. I know I've been learning a ton since I've been here, so I'm excited to wrap this up for you. And this is a interactive. There'll be some Slido slides if you used Slido before, but it'll pop up and let you go to it. If you're interested in staying in touch or you want to get our newsletter on quality assurance and leadership, here's a QR code for that. I'll put that up at the end when on my signature kind of closing slide as well. So with that, let's start with a little bit of fun. What do you think? Okay. When you watch this video, and some of you may have seen this video, but when you watch this video, I want you to think, why is this guy showing me this video when we're supposed to be talking about test automation? It's a good point. Okay, let's unmute it and make sure this doesn't mess you up, okay? Jeez. Now you're going to have to. Okay, so why is this dude relevant to today's conversation? Yes. Maybe.
Because this can be interpreted in a number of ways. The first person that came up is the first crazy person to do something, and everybody thinks what the heck is this guy doing? The second person that walked up and started dancing with him gave everybody else permission, in a sense, to do the same thing.
I love it. Other ideas? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? Come on. I know it's late in the day. Yes. I like that. It takes one person to get uncomfortable for everybody else to get uncomfortable. Any other thoughts? Yes. Right. So someone's having fun and I want to join in on the fun.
There's a quote here. It says, "Rising tide, a rising tide lifts all dancing ships."
Nice. A rising tide lifts all dancing ships. What I took away from it, and the reason I popped it in here is when we lead, doesn't matter what we're leading, we need to lead with enthusiasm. And when we do that, people follow. If that would have been somebody boring standing up there, maybe swaying back and forth a little bit, nobody would have ever joined him. But did you notice how long it took for even the first person to join them, and how much guts he had for being? Now that, yeah, alcohol was probably involved, but still, right? Then the two of them, they were up there a long time. Then he does the somersault, which was my favorite part for sure. So what I want us to know is, in the test automation journey, on any journey in our careers, lead with enthusiasm. You'll grow into it. You'll learn more. We're never experts when we first start. My name's Jeff Van Fleet. I'm the president and CEO of Lighthouse Technologies. We're a software consulting company based out of Ohio. And we do a lot of work in test automation, but mostly what we do is we help customers and, frankly, all of you people in our business get better at what we do. And you'll see my contact information pop up at the end. You'll get my cell phone number. Whatever you want, reach out to me. Send me an email, send me a text. Let me know what you're looking for. If you're looking for a job, if you need help, or you're trying to solve some problem on metrics, or really anything around QA or testing. I've been in this business a minute or two. I'm here to support all of you and help all of you get better at what you do. And so let's move on from here, and let's keep in mind that this concept of a test automation journey, it's really, no kidding, a journey. We're not going to get it right right up front. It's going to take a little bit, and we're going to have to get buy-in along the way. We put together in this blueprint 4 steps. And let's just quick show of hands, who's already in test automation today? Okay. Who is not in test automation but might want to be there someday? Okay. Like a third of you are not in test automation yet. 2/3 of you are. And so the 4 steps here aren't that complicated, because I'm not that complicated of a guy. You start the journey, you build that foundation, and you expand from there. And once you begin to do that, you scale and accelerate from there. These often take multiple years. Like this first part often doesn't take multiple years, but it takes a few, maybe 2 months, 3 months. But then this continues, right? Continuous improvement. It's going to go on. It's going to go on forever. If you remember from the title, this is really a case study of one of our clients. And what I want to share with you is some common things we see in talking to people. This customer, by the way, this customer is not a tech company, it's a transportation company. And so technology is only there to support their sales and their operations, okay? So many of you might work for companies who have technology like that. And some of you might work for, no kidding, legit app SaaS companies or something, okay? 2002 is when they started development. They did not get their first manual tester in 13 years later, okay? Which is really common, okay? That's really common as well. Thanks. So 13 years, they finally get a single manual tester. 4 years later, they start this journey on test automation. It was a single person who had the guts to go to their direct supervisor and say, hey, I think we could be better if we had some automation. And he sold it to the supervisor, and then they had to go pitch it and sell it to get funding to make it happen. And then the next 2 years, they built on this foundation, then they scaled, and they're in continuous improvement now. And they have a bunch of apps. I think they have internally, they have like 80 different applications on all kind of platforms, as you probably, for those of you that work for bigger companies, probably all do as well. So let's start here with Slido. Isn't that interesting? Okay, well, for some reason that's not working, but oh, look, it is working. Nice. Okay, so if you guys want, please scan the QR code, whether you're online or whether you're here in the room, and tell us, where are you on this test automation journey? You're hoping to start someday. You already started. Step 1 is you started an initial proof of concept, or and let's say that was 2 or 3 months. And then step two is you're really building on that foundation. You're scaling, or you've been doing this quite a while, several years, and you're in continuous improvement. By the way, I love this tool, Slido, because you guys give us real feedback and we can see where you really are. Nice, nice. Everything is tied at 17%. Oh, look at that. That is crazy. That is kind of fun. You got to admit that was kind of fun. Those of you that saw that, it was all four of these were at 17%. Now look, continuous improvement's kicking butt. Um, so step one, some of you are hoping to start. Some of you started, okay, the initial proof of concept. Then step two is building on that foundation. So a lot of you are in this mode of, hey, we built a proof of concept. A lot of times what happens there is the proof of concept gets put on the shelf. We kind of get stuck and we don't get using it very often. But people are wanting to build on that foundation. And then look at still changing here. Nice. And then some of you are scaling and then equal number in continuous improvement. So really a lot of people all over the place, but generally a lot of you are early on. So I'll try to talk to that, but feel free to ask questions as we go along. I am not a formal person. Great, thank you. Okay, starting the journey. How do you start the journey? You've got to conceive or ideate some kind of initial test automation goal. Like, what would you take to your boss? Why would they even consider spending money on a tool or time to do test automation? Then you've got to get some leadership buy-in because you need some kind of budget. We recommend you propose an easy 2-month, 3-month, a small initial proof of concept that doesn't cost the company very much money, but it's more of an experiment. Can this actually deliver some real benefits to us as a company? Choose some initial simple tool, Playwright, Selenium, something simple. Build that proof of concept. And then this phrase, you're going to see a lot here, demonstrate the value. Why? Because we went and asked for budget to make this proof of concept. And we now need to go back and say, hey, did we deliver on our expectations here? Or what did we learn that we didn't quite deliver? Okay. And you'll see this frequently. We'll show you a bunch of charts of possible metrics and stuff that you might gather along the way. So what are these things that might happen here that you could go to your boss with? What if we could reduce our regression suite from 6 weeks down to 5 weeks? One of my in my early part of my career, I built test automation tools for the Air Force. And we were responsible for pulling the flight computer out of an F-16 or a C-130, different planes. And we had to build a simulation around them and exercise that flight program is really what we had to do. Okay. It used to take 24 hours a day, 3 weeks to do the test work manually in the test lab. Think about that. So when we got into release mode, we were there working shift work and trying to make that happen. It took 3 weeks. Over time, and it's obviously beyond proof of concept, but over time, we stood up 2 more labs. We fully automated 2 of the labs, and we did the manual testing, exploratory testing that we needed to do in one of the labs, and we turned 3 weeks into 3 days with automation. So a giant return on investment for the company. We ended up with 27 automation engineers or something at that time. But that's how I got in this space in the first place. And that was, I think I started that in 1991. Again, a couple minutes ago. But lots of opportunities that you could go to depending on what your business goals are, speed to market, time, right? I want to fix things quickly and get patch updates out, lots of reasons. In the case of this customer, when they went to the boss said, hey, you can do it, just don't increase our cost. That's kind of an interesting limitation. Don't increase our cost. and maintain the current speed of delivery. So you can start this, you just can't slow us down. The funny thing was their manual testing couldn't stay caught up. They had not been caught up for months and months and months. They couldn't get the regression done because it took too long, right? So they needed to go to automation, but they even because of that, they couldn't convince the boss to do that. He's like, yeah, that's fine, just don't increase the cost. And increase the test coverage so that we can increase quality. What they translated that to was actually do the testing before we release, so we can do that with automation. So I thought that was really interesting that was what I would call is a bit of a limited mindset that sometimes we have to face in the real world when we're trying to pitch an idea to folks. So interesting. Step two, remember step one, build a proof of concept. Now you've done that, you've shown some value, you've learned some things. Maybe you didn't deliver on the real value, but you at least learned some things. Step two says, hey, we're going to go forward. We committed that this is valuable for us. We're going to go forward. So we're going to put together some simple test automation strategy. Something like, let's go after the highest risk applications that we're working on, okay? Let's do them first because we're going to get the biggest bang for the buck from them. And then what we recommend and what turned out this customer did is they built two sets of teams. They built what I'll call test automation experts, more hard developer skills, and then they trained their manual testers to become automation engineers, okay? Which takes longer, right? These folks had some development experience and they did kind of the heavy lifting, built the foundation, those kind of things. And then they trained these to then take those, sort of copy and edit to expand the automation. Start with eating the low-hanging fruit, show some value quickly, and then always share some metrics and the results. So you're back in front of the people who funded this on a regular basis. Who likes to brief their boss? Okay, 3 of you. Nice, not bad. Maybe 4. Okay, that's 10%. And it's just critical, okay? It's critical that if we are engaged on a project, that we are enthusiastic about it, but we're also showing the results, good and bad, right? We're QA engineers, so good and bad, we're learning along the way. In the case of the customer, I was saying they built this SDET team. What I love that they did is they selected members for that team, not just because they had development skills, but because their inherent nature was they wanted to teach and coach. And they knew they had 30 or 40 other manual testers that they needed to get up to speed. And they picked this team because they were teachers, they were coaches. Okay? So, really good lesson for that company, a really good culture. They started with a critical web application, right? Because they got a quick ROI on that baby. And they kept things simple. You can see they started with Selenium for web UI, and they picked the REST-sharp library for the API tests. And they started building a curriculum to train the manual testers. And if some of you are manual testers today, and you want a basic curriculum on how to get to automation, send me a note or connect with me and I'll send you an easy curriculum, okay, to kind of get you started with free tools, okay? And regular reporting. We talked about that, so always do reporting. Step 3 is now, and remember, it took them 2 months to do the proof of concept. 2 years they were in that first phase. So now you're sort of in year 3 here. In their case, they were sort of in year 3 and 4, or it took them 15 years to get a manual tester. So it takes a minute to get there, right? So in this area for scale and accelerate, they want to implement across the organization. Remember, they were primarily focused on a critical web application. In that 2 years, they did expand to a couple other applications, but they wanted to now increase that coverage across the rest of the core applications. There were still some applications that weren't worth automating. They were going to be sunsetting them, so it didn't make sense investing in them. They were working now towards CI/CD with the automation, beginning to mature the practices, okay? And then trying to embed a quality by the way, I've been in QA so long that I just think that everybody understands QA. Developers want better quality, the managers everybody understands it. I'm a fool. Uh, Not everybody does, right? So they began an intentional campaign to educate the managers and the developers the benefits of quality. How might it benefit our organization if we could move to automation? And what now needs to happen in older code that is blocking us from being able to automate? Okay, they began to have those conversations. Light bulbs started going off developers. Um, One thing that, and I heard somebody else saying this yesterday, is it's hard for an organization to spend money reverse engineering or fixing an old application to make it more automatable. But when they're in there doing maintenance and fixing, adding a new feature or fixing a bug, they can fix it and make that part more automatable while they're in there. And so that's what I would recommend to you and what we recommended to them that they do is, hey, when you're in there, tweak and adjust these things, and let's add some better IDs so that we can do better automation here. And then continue proving that value. A little few details here, and this is also interesting to me. This particular company grew rapidly through COVID. Just weirdly the way cycles went. Like grocery stores did really well, but restaurants suffered. Well, this transportation company did really well in COVID. And because they had done a good job of laying that foundation and building that framework as part of that step 2, in step 3, they were ready to support this growth and this demand from their customers. So it just happened that work that way, but it's nice that like life works out once in a while, right? They had separate automation repositories from the developers. Not something, and you'll see later on in their lessons learned, like at the time, it felt like it was the right decision to make because it was less complicated. They could control it all. But as it turned out, now I've got 2 sets of libraries and DevOps and CI/CD. It's all a little complicated now because they're kind of on different streams. But it let them at least have some control of what they needed to do. Okay, and for them, and I'm not sure it was a bad decision, but like when they look at it in hindsight, sometimes it looks like maybe there was a better way to go here. We could have put it all in the same Git repository. We could have built it all into the same pipelines. But to do that is a little more complicated because now you got to get buy-in with the whole development group, right? They encouraged collaboration with the developers. We talked about that process, right? Where they were trying to educate, and again, they were intentional. They were running like lunch and learns and those kind of things, trying to educate the organization on the benefits of quality here. Any questions here so far? Anybody still awake? Okay, thank you for that. um, they expanded. Remember, we were talking about them expanded. So they expanded not just from Selenium, I think they were Selenium C# for their browser app, but they added Appium and Browser Stack to deal with multiple devices for their mobile apps. They had a UiPath is a RPA tool. They already had a remote process automation tool in automating some business processes. So they decided to select that same tool to automate this legacy desktop app that was like a client server app. Okay, it worked fine. They only picked it to be aligned with technology that the company already owned. Just as to compare that for a second, um, we are in conversations with another customer who's a Microsoft shop, and they want to pick Java as their language for their automation tool. And I'm like, huh, why do you want to do that when your entire 100-person development shop knows C sharp? Like, why don't pick the easy thing here, right? But the automation lead is comfortable with Java and he wants to go Java. So there's, you can't win every battle, right? And so you pick and choose which battles that we attack in life, right? And so I think it's an interesting decision that might come back to bite him, or maybe it's a good decision. I don't know, but wouldn't be one that I would have selected personally. And they also added performance testing at this point in time. So this is step 3. Step 4, what? Always show value. I love blue and orange, like it's nice contrasting colors, right? This is a way that they show value. They have a Microsoft BI portal, and it's collecting data from, they're using Azure DevOps. It's pulling data down from ADO regularly, all the time, and they are tracking different metrics. Now, I'll explain a few of them to you here. And I'm a giant metrics, like I love metrics. So I love digging into these things. So the blue line is our automation path. You can see over time from July of 23 to May or June of 24, we're making good progress in automation. Yellow is we're not planning to automate them, and the gray is they were formerly manual and they're moving to automation. Okay. So, and you can see, you would expect these two to diverge like this, right? These are getting lower and these are getting higher, but you can see there's still a couple thousand more manual tests that they want to figure out. And I think you all know, but I'll emphasize it. You don't build a one-for-one, take a manual test and build an automation for it, take another manual test and build an automation for it. It's a different set of thinking you need to go through when you go to automation. Um, you often build automation, right? And you can load multiple data points or transactions into one automated script, whereas manually, you would have been manually out there selecting a particular transaction with certain parameters to it and then verifying that transaction flowed through the system somehow. With automation, you can run 10 or 20 or 10,000, depending on which AI person you listen to run through there. And so the processing, I call it eating the elephant, right? You think about this elephant here was 7,000. Well, at some point in time, it was 5,500, but you notice time still progresses. They still have in sprint manual testing going on some teams, and this number and so you can see now there's still 7,200 tests plus these ones that we're not going to automate in there. So you always have to think about, how do you eat the elephant? I'm a risk-based testing guy. I think there are a bunch of techniques. There have been a couple of different sessions this week on risk-based testing. I don't think it's overly complex. I think there's business risk to think about. If you have a financial system, an easy risk is I got transactions. I got 1,000 transactions a day flowing through this ERP. Okay, we need to make sure these transactions work all the time. Or and so it's high risk, right? If that doesn't work, it's like, life as we know it's not going to happen, and you're going to be working a lot of hours. Or there's the end of the month close, critical. It just only happens once a month, right? So it's also very important, maybe less important than the 1,000 transactions a day, but still really critically important. So those have business risk to them. There's also technical risk. There's some techniques of doing code evaluation, some static code evaluation that will identify high risk modules, and that they're classified as high risk because the number of branches in the module exceeds the ability of the human to process it in a way that you can test every branch. Okay, so if you want to know more about that, I probably have blogs or white papers on that topic for you. But it's super interesting to be able to identify, one of the things we do often for a company is we run some analysis tools on code, and it will point to those modules that are so super complex that anytime a developer goes in to modify something, they break it because it had 30 if statements in it or something super complex. One customer had over 200 branches in a single module when we evaluated at one point. So you think about that, like how are you going to possibly test that? And they're not all nested and like nested down like complicated, like they're not all like that, but some in fact are. So there's I got a little aside here on how you eat the elephant, but you can see they're tracking how much progress are we making, okay? And the little pie chart just shows the current status of that. Then they're tracking how many production issues by application, how many productions created by which kind of paths, what kind of streams are creating bugs. They're looking for, and this is also super interesting. Remember, great culture said early on, said, hey, we're not going to get rid of the manual testers. We want to educate them. So we're trying to train people. The whole company culture is that way. And so they're not pointing fingers at people. They're like, uh-oh, what are we not training you on that might be causing these challenges to occur? I'm going to zoom in on this one here. These are production issues created over time. Like, show of hands, who's tracking production issues? Woo. Like 5 of you? 6 of you? Come on. Okay, really? Okay. Um, uh, I might suggest you consider tracking production issues. Okay. They're very insightful. Okay. Customers find bugs. Often customers find the same bug. And you might have 1,000 issues show up in your help desk and it's all the same bug, right? But it happened from 1,000 customers. So super helpful to know what your customers think about the quality of the application. Um, Again, metrics guy, so I can show you a lot on those kind of things, how to compare production metrics versus production discovered defects versus UAT versus integration test, internally discovered metrics. But you can see as a trend, if they were had Excel drawing the trend line, you see it's curving down dramatically. But what they're also noticing is they have these spikes going on, okay? And when these spikes happen, they're asking the question, what happened here, right? It's super interesting. Some of these spikes are because they brought in a test manager, okay? That's the reason they brought in a new test manager who didn't understand the system like the other one did. And all of a sudden, everything went a little haywire for a little while, okay? So back to Slido, and maybe it'll jump on here. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, we're going to skip this poll. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. Pull out Slido again. Now talk. This is a word chart. So tell us what kind of challenges you're experiencing with test automation. And online, please do the same thing. We got 10 minutes. Okay. Implementing automation. Good. I swear I didn't do that intentionally. It'll keep collecting them. Too many flaky tests. Adoption, reliability, siloing. Nice. Stability, by the way, is a common problem that we see. False test failures. Good one. Complex end-to-end flow. You heard other people talk about, I swear I am not pressing this button. You heard other people talking this week about automation, and start with like smoke tests, right? Great place to start and build from there. Time, that is actually the number one. Time and complexity. We've done this survey 4 times already, I think. In general, time and you can kind of group these together. Um, it's like magic. I got to move on. Um, so time and complexity tend to be the top 2 things that we hear. And for sure, time, I would have had to count the little ones and see which ones were related to complexity. So now step 4 is continuous improvement. Don't be satisfied. Come to these kind of conferences and learn what's going on out there. How do I improve? Continue expanding across the applications, but also your mind. What are the possibilities here? I'm going to talk in a second how to move from reactive to proactive, because it's really important. What happens here in step 4 is we're talking about continuous improvement, okay? Shift left, and my view of shift left is different than most people's, apparently. I thought we all had the same definition, but I was wrong. So, and then continue proving value. So let's talk reactive to proactive. So we're testers. We are not QA people. We are QC people. The definition of quality control is we inspect or test the thing after the thing exists. The code exists. We test it. It's a quality control function. The requirements exist. We inspect requirements. Show of hands, how many of you as QA people are involved in requirements, grooming, or inspections? Nice. Okay. Like 80% of you. Awesome. But all these inspections, testing, all of it is quality control. Quality assurance is being proactive. It is what did I learn during these activities that I can apply to get better as an organization. Okay. We notice the bugs we're getting the most of our bugs inside this application, but inside one particular part of this application. What can we do about it? Oh, maybe the code's too complex. Maybe we have new developers there that need better training. Who knows? But as soon as you begin to identify some of those things, you can do some root cause analysis and figure out what happened. Okay? You mature as an organization and you begin to look not just at product quality like we're taught to do, but you begin to look at process consistency and process quality, which gives us consistent results from the whole SDLC. This is a chart. I love this chart here. So let me show you for a second. So those of you familiar with CMMI or development maturity, ad hoc is a level 1 organization. A managed organization is like a level 3 organization. So think of as I don't have any processes over here. And over here, I have processes, and they're the same processes across all developers and all testers. Like all teams are using the same processes here. Same size system, 50,000 line of code system. We humans inject bugs, right? That's where they come from. It isn't some evil spirit or AI, evil AI. But we'll inject about 8,000 defects over here for a level 1 organization. Over here, we inject half as many defects. The only difference is better processes, better training. Same people, better training, better processes. We remove roughly, and I think it's 85%, I'd have to check back. Here, we remove 95%. So you think about this for a second. We inject half as many and we remove way more, which leaves only 200 to be found during UAT. Over here, there's 1,700 to find in UAT. This whole thing is about how do I improve quality across my whole SDLC so that I can move here, okay? These are industry data. You can begin tracking your own so you kind of feel for where you fit as an organization. Yeah, or you can call me. What they're doing today in terms of this step 4 in modernization is they're focusing on speed and high quality. So they want to get better at high quality, smaller releases. Like, okay, that's kind of a good goal. The QAs, remember all those manual QAs? There's 3 of them that left that still do manual exploratory testing. 27 or 30 of them or something have now been transitioned, and now they're quality engineers. They're SDETs. Okay. It's been 3, 4 years of training and doing the work. They're fully automated engineers now, which is giving the organization more autonomy and absolutely more productivity. Okay. They decided to finally combine the repos with development. So now things are simpler and aligned and they have the same pipelines. Okay. And they decided to move from Selenium C# to Playwright. Okay. Some lessons learned from the organization, things that went well. Leadership buy-in from the beginning. They expanded as they found success. Good collaboration with the developers. That got better over time, by the way. Little squeaky up front, but it got better over time as they educated. And then continuously reporting. Things that were like, lessons learned, right? We could get better here. They were too focused on themselves instead of being holistically focused on quality across the organization. Their words, by the way, not mine. Um, they didn't have enough time to complete. This was a problem from the beginning, but still a lesson they put, like we couldn't get done anyhow. And then we moved to automation. And as we went to automation, the manual testing got worse because we're trying to get to automation. They had inconsistent results across the team. They didn't do equal training. They didn't have equal support. Even though they were trying to train all the manual testers to become quality engineers, it wasn't all equal, and they ended up with inconsistent results. And they leapt forward too quickly. The organization sort of leaped forward without their help and began to mandate things on the developers like, thou shalt have unit testing, and we want 100% unit testing coverage. And they had no requirement before for that, but they know doing unit testing is critically important. Now they pulled that back, but still the organization saw what was happening and jumped in full, both feet and said, let's move forward. Quick key takeaways, just get started. And you got to always talk to leadership and show them the value, okay? Lead with enthusiasm, because who doesn't like to dance by themselves out there in a party? And remember, this is a journey. Reach out if you have questions, or you need help, or you just want to discuss something with me. I'm always here. I think on that QR code, which I'll show you in a second. Oh, and I'm a big work-life balance guy. Turns out I'm from Ohio, but our two daughters here, Katie and Rachel, live here in Portland. So I'm out here visiting them and lined it up with this conference. And my wife and I just celebrated our 33rd anniversary. So yeah, here's my contact information, my cell phone. Text me, call me, email me. If you want to meet with me, here's my Calendly. If you want to join our mailing group, please scan that QR code. In there, I think we have a question of if I can help you in any way. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, people call me all the time saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a job, whatever." Okay. Yes. Because they had, the problem with Selenium, the big problem with Selenium is having to do forced waits, waiting for the UI to come forward, and Playwright kind of solved that problem. And so that's why they moved that direction. Yeah, I know. What a pain. Yeah. Other questions? Well, thank you all. Appreciate you being here.